Good morning, children. Welcome to English class. The topic for today is the judgment seat of Vikramaditya. It is written by Sister Nivedita, who was an Irish lady and she became the disciple of Swami Vivekananda. Sister Nivedita, she was born on 28th October 1867 and her actual name was Margaret Elizabeth Noble. She became disciple of Swami Vivekananda and opened a girls' school in Baby Bazaar area of Calcutta. She died on October 13, 1911 in Darjeeling. So let's see about the lesson. Now, children, you know that King Vikramaditya, he was famous in Indian history for his judgment. He was the king of Ujjain, and after his death, his palaces they were ruined. The people took the animals to graze at that palace. Once a chair is found in which a boy of village sat on it and started playing justice. The king ruling the kingdom at that time thought of taking out that chair. When he wanted to sit on that chair, the angels flew away with it. So we are going to study this chapter in detail. We are all familiar with the name of Vikramaditya. Children, you all know about Vikramaditya, that he was a king of Ujjain, and his reign became the landmark in the history of our country. Vikram Samvat, it originates from his name. Although, children, he is so famous, but it is very strange that we hardly know about anything definite about his life. But there is one thing which is certain about him: he loved justice and learning. He gave perfect justice to his people and gathered in his court learned men about him. It is said that he was the greatest judge in history. It is also said that Vikramaditya was never deceived, nor he ever punished the wrong man. The people or the guilty, they become trembled or they started trembling when they came before him because they knew that his eyes would look straight into their guilt. And people who came with difficult problems, they were always satisfied by the way he solved their problems. So in India, children, whenever any judge pronounced his judgment with great skill, it was said that he must sat on judgment seat of Vikramaditya. Yes, children, have you ever seen the judgment seat of Vikramaditya? Perhaps not. Why? Because the seat does not exist anymore. And it disappeared. So when Vikramaditya died, the people of Ujjain forgot him. His palaces and his fortress, they were all ruined, and the heaped up ruins, they were covered with grass, dust, trees, and they were turned into pasture for feeding the cattle. The village people, they usually send their cows to their pastures to graze, and in the morning, the cattle, they would go in the care of shepherd boys and they return till late in the evening. When it was time to return, a shepherd boy would call out the edge of the pasture, and all the cattle with their cowherds, they gathered round him, and together they would turn homewards. Such was the life of the shepherd boys in the villages of Ujjain. There were many shepherd boys, and they spent their long days on the pastures, and there they had plenty of time for fun. One day, they found a playground and they gather under the trees. The playground was very delightful. Here and there were ends of stone peeped out, and in the middle of the ground there was a green mound which looks like the judge's seat. At last, one of the boys thought, and he seated himself on it. He called other boys and he said that I'll be the judge, and you can bring all your cases before me, and we will have trials. So he asked other boys that he become the judge, and you all bring the cases or your problems to me, and we will start with the trials. Then he straightened his face and became very grave to act the part of judge. Others also saw the fun at once, and they whispered among themselves. Quickly they picked up some quarrel and appeared before him. Each of the group they stated their case, one saying that a certain field was theirs, another saying that it was not, and so on. So they all wanted him to settle the dispute. But now, all of a sudden, a strange thing happens. Now the boy who was sitting on the seat or on the mound, now he became different, or he looked different as he was appeared. He had become grave and he became serious, and his tone also changed, and his manners they were also strange and impressive. And the rest of the boys they were little frightened with the appearance of that boy. But they thought it was a fun, and once again they put up a fresh case before him, and once more he gave his judgment. And this particular game goes on for hours and hours together. That boy was sitting on the judge's seat, listening to the complaints of the boys and pronouncing sentences with the same gravity till it was time to return. And then he jumped down from his place, and again he became like another coward. Now from then onwards, he becomes so famous that all the complicated disputes were put before him. And always the same thing happens. He looked different whenever he seated on that particular seat. The spirit of knowledge and justice would come to him, and he showed them the truth. But when he came down from his seat, he would be no different from the other boys. Time to time now this news starting spreading through the countryside. Grown-up men and women from other villages, they also bring their disputes in the court of the cowherd boy, and they always received a judgment that both sides understood, and so they went satisfied. Now, the king who was living far away from Ujjain heard the story. So he said, that boy must have definitely sat on the judgment seat of Vikramaditya. Now the king, he easily recognized that maybe that boy must have sitting on the judgment seat of Vikramaditya. The king's guess was correct, as the views upon the meadows were on Vikramaditya's palace. If just sitting on the mount brings wisdom and justice to the shepherd boy, he thought, let us dig deep and find the judgment seat. I too shall sit on it and hear all the cases. Then the spirit of Vikramaditya will descend upon me as well, and I shall always be a just king. So the king thought that let us dig that particular seat, and I also sit on the seat and hear all the cases, and the spirit of Vikramaditya may be that descend upon me, and I will also get the judgment clearly, and I shall always be a just fool. So, with spades and shovels, the grassy knoll where the boys played was overturned. The boy who had been a self-made judge was sorrowful. He felt that something very dear to him was being taken away. So, the labours of the king, they went on that ground and they starting digging that particular seat, and the boy who was sitting on the judgment seat, he now become sorrowful, and he felt that may something very important, very dear to him, it was taken from him. At last the labourers came on something. They covered it and found a slab of black marble supported on the hands and wings of 25 stone angels. Surely it was the judgment seat of Vikramaditya. So at last, when the labourers completed the digging, they uncovered a slab of black marble which is supported by the wings of 25 stone angels, and surely that was the seat of Vikramaditya. So this is all for today, children. In our next class we'll continue this chapter. Till then, thank you and have a nice day.